Hi everybody. Okay, so we're going to start our second book of this current lockdown. That was quick, wasn't it? We read Pooh in 6 days. Okay, How to Train Your Dragon, the second book. How to Speak Dragonese. No, it's not, it's the third book. It says you don't have to read these books in order, but if you want to, that is the correct order. There is the correct order. All right, okay, let's start. It's all about Hiccup, a Viking called Hiccup, and his dragon called Toothless, and some other characters on there. Snotlout, Dog's Breath, Stoic the Vast, Komikaze, Fishlegs, who's Hiccup's best friend, and his dragon is called Horikow. Excuse me. Okay, right. There's a map. Hard to see all the detail on there. It says Barbaric Archipelago. Archipelago. It's a great word. It means a group of islands. An archipelago. Okay. Number 1. The boarding an enemy lesson. The boarding an enemy ship lesson, sorry. Once upon a foggy day in a cold, cold country long, long ago, 7 small Viking boats floated through the sea known as Woden's bathtub. The fog had swallowed up the peaceable country to the north and the Isle of Berk to the west, and indeed had swallowed up so much of everything that it was as if the boats were sky boats and had left the earth entirely and were sailing through cloud banks way, way up in the air. In the first boat, which was called the Fat Boar, sat Gobber the Belch, a 6.5-foot giant in teeny-weeny hairy shorts who had leg muscles so enormous they had muscles of their own, and a beard like a hedgehog struck by lightning. Gobber was the teacher in charge of the pirate training program on the Isle of Berk, and this sail through the fog was part of a boarding an enemy ship lesson. The 6 boy-sized boats that were following the Fat Boar each had 2 boys in them, and these boys were Gobber's pupils, young members of the tribe of the Hairy Hooligans. "Okay, you disgusting globs of girly snot," yelled Gobber, in a bellow so loud it could be heard several miles away. "We are now going to practice boarding an enemy ship on the easy target of a peaceable fishing boat. Can anyone remember the first rule of ambush?" We learned about ambush, didn't we? I learned about an ambush in Winnie the Pooh. And he talked about gorse bushes being a surprise if you sat on one. "Take the enemy by surprise, sir," shouted out Snotface Snotlout, a tall, unpleasantly smug-looking boy with gigantic nostrils and the beginnings of a small moustache. "Very good, Snotlout," purred Gobber the Belch, and he continued at full volume. "In a fog this thick, your victim ship will not have a chance of seeing you coming." Yeah, but they can hear us, though, thought Hiccup, Horrendous Haddock III, gloomily trying to peer through the fog, unless, of course, we have the luck to stumble across some completely deaf, peaceable fishermen. Hiccup, Horrendous Haddock III is, rather surprisingly, the hero of this story. I say surprisingly because the first thing you noticed about Hiccup was how very, very ordinary he was. He was on the small side, with a slightly freckled, absolutely average face that would always get overlooked in a crowd. His dragon, Toothless, was at that moment asleep down the front of Hiccup's shirt and was just as average as his owner. The only truly remarkable thing about Toothless was how remarkably small he was. He was at least half the size of the other boys' dragons. And as you can imagine, this wasn't something to boast about. Gobber's shouting woke the little dragon up. He poked his nose out of the neck of Hiccup's tunic. What's happening?" he asked sleepily, in Dragonese. Okay, so we know what it says. Dragonese is the language of dragons, and only Hiccup could understand this fascinating language. "Oh, nothing unusual," Hiccup whispered back, scratching Toothless behind the horns. He loved that. "Gobber is shouting, Snotlout is showing off, and we're all out here floating in the fog and the cold when we could be tucked up in front of a roasting fire. You go back to sleep if you like." Toothless chuckled. "Oh, you Vikings are as mad as mackerel," he said. "Well, wake Toothless up when it's lunchtime." and he burrowed back down to the nice warm spot just next to Hiccup's left armpit, and he closed his eyes again. Hiccup was sharing his boat with his best friend Fishlegs, who was even skinnier than Hiccup and looked a lot like a daddy longlegs. With a squint, Fishlegs put his hand up in the air. "It's all very well that they can't see us coming, sir," he pointed out logically, "but how are we going to see them so that we can board them in the first place?" "Easy peasy, plankton brain," boomed Gobber, very pleased with himself. "Peaceable fishing boats are always followed by flocks of lesser black-backed sea dragons, hoping for a bite. All you have to do is follow the racket, the noise they make, and you'll have found yourself a boat. You then simply board the boat, yelling the hooligan war cry. Repeat after me. Yah! Yelled Gobber the Belch. Yah! Yelled 10 of the boys back at him, brandishing their swords like maniacs. Yah! Repeated Hiccup and Fishlegs without much enthusiasm. The Peaceables are terrified of us hooligans. Woden only knows. Right, lads, you steal one of their helmets to prove you have completed the exercise and report back to me. This is going to be like burgling berries from a baby, boomed Gobber the Belch. Oh, I nearly forgot. Silly me, Gobber laughed carelessly. The one thing you do have to bear in mind is that on no account should you leave this bay. This is very important. A bay is a kind of protected part of the land. It's sort of, the sea comes into a kind of crescent shape in the land, and that is called a bay. Just wondering on the map if I can show you a picture of a bay. Let's have a look. Yeah, okay. What page are we on? 22. All right, so you can see here. Here's an island, okay? This would be a natural bay, okay? A kind of protected part here. So this is where they are, somewhere like that, okay. Okay, on no account should you leave this bay. This is very important because just to the south of here runs the Summer Current, a warm stream of water, and you all know what lives in the Summer Current. Shark worms, gulped Fishlegs. That's right, Fishlegs, boomed Gobber. I know Hiccup, our natural history expert, can tell us something about shark worms. Certainly, sir, replied Hiccup, delighted to be asked a question about his favourite subject, dragons. He took out of his pocket a small, scruffy notebook with How to Speak Dragonese written in large, scrawly letters on the front. In this book, Hiccup kept notes on the Dragonese language and descriptions of the various species of dragons and their habitats. Oh, well, said Hiccup, having trouble reading his own handwriting, shark worms are a kind of dragon that look a lot like sharks. The adults can grow to about 6 meters in length, and they have at least 5 rows of teeth. Oh, get on with it, boy, yelled Gobber. Okay, they're highly carnivorous, and they not only scavenge off ships, but they climb aboard and attack you there. On land, they can easily outrun a man. I would suggest, sir, that if there was even a chance we could run into a shark worm, we should leave the area immediately. Oh, for Thor's sake, boy, grinned Gobber the Belch. With that kind of attitude, you might never leave the house. I'm training you to be pirates, not softies. What happens if we get lost, sir? Pleaded Fishlegs. Lost? Snorted Gobber. Lost? Vikings don't get lost. Honestly, sir, sneered Snotlout, I don't know why you don't throw Hiccup, the useless and his fish-legged failure of a friend, out of the tribe completely. They're a disgrace to all of us. Hiccup and Fishlegs looked miserable. I mean, look at their boat, sir, continued the sneering Snotlout. We're Vikings, sir, the greatest shipbuilders the ancient world has ever known. A raft like that just makes us look ridiculous. You think you're so clever, Snotlout, retorted Hiccup determinedly, but this boat can go a lot faster than you think. Looks aren't everything, you know. Unfortunately, Snotlout did have a point. The hopeful Puffin was more of a floating accident than an actual boat. She had been built by Hiccup and Fishlegs in shipbuilding lessons, and they were both hopeless at woodwork. Something kept on going wrong with the design, and instead of being long and thin, like a Viking ship should be, she'd ended up fat and almost completely round. Her mast was too long and leaned lopsidedly to the left, so that in a strong wind she went round in circles. And she also had a leak. Every half an hour, Fishlegs or Hiccup had to remember to bail out the seawater that had collected in the bottom of the boat with Hiccup's helmet. Fishlegs' helmet also had a leak. Gobber the Belch looked at the hopeful Puffin. Said Gobber thoughtfully. You might have a point, Snotlout. Now, he continued briskly, at the sound of my horn, the exercise will begin. He raised a curly-whirly bugle to his lips. Oh, jumping jellyfish, moaned Fishlegs. I hate the pirate training program. We're going to get lost. We're going to sink. We're going to get eaten slowly by sharkworms. Screech, screamed the bugle. And there is Hiccup and Fishlegs in their boat that help the, what's it called? The hopeful Puffin. Chapter 2. Sharkworms. I'm going to stop there. That's end of part 1.